Nothing is more awesome than a frigid bitch going crazy. Hello? Have you ever heard of literature?
Welcome to Decanonized, an opera podcast where the sacred is subjective. I'm your host, Olivia Giovetti, and every other week I'll be joined by a guest to dive into one of the top 100 operas as collected in Henry W. Simon's book, 100 Great Operas and Their Stories. And this week is the first of 6 Mozart operas on Simon's list, Don Giovanni.
Don Giovanni, I come to sing.
Are you mad? I'm a nobleman. I only ever dine with people of my own type.
I'm a famous horseman.
And we're a famous horse.
Don Giovanni is the story of a nobleman who has slept with 640 women in Italy, 231 in Germany, 100 in France, 91 in Turkey, and 1,003 in Spain. I will save you the math. That is 2,065 in total. Though you have to assume that he's been through some other countries as well if he's going from Spain to Germany to Turkey. I mean, there are other countries in between. It's on his latest conquest that he kills Donna Anna's father. Anna and her fiancé, Don Ottavio, swear revenge. Later the same day, Giovanni is tracked down by another ex, Donna Elvira, and also stumbles on the wedding party of Zerlina and Mazzetto and is ready to go for 1004. This conflation of events, and again, I cannot stress enough the fact that all of this happens in one single day, leads to Giovanni's ultimate undoing, with the ghost of Donna Anna's father dragging him down to hell and scattering the other characters to the winds. Henry W. Simon calls this not just one of the greatest operas, but the greatest opera. And I'm so glad to be discussing it today with Sylvia Korman. Sylvia is a PhD candidate in English at the CUNY Graduate Center, which happens to be my alma mater. They are also an opera critic for Parterre Box and the brains behind People Mad at Opera. Sylvia, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
The year is 1787. The Constitutional Convention has begun in the United States. King George III of Great Britain issues a proclamation for the discouragement of vice. Mary Wollstonecraft writes thoughts on the education of daughters 10 years before giving birth to her own daughter, Mary Shelley. And musical works included Haydn's The Seven Last Words of Christ, Martini Soler's L'Arbore di Diana, and at least 15 pieces by Mozart, including Eine kleine Nachtmusik, the Clarinet Quintet, and Don Giovanni. Sylvia, what is Don Giovanni about?
Wow, what is Don Giovanni about? Maybe it's a hot take. I'm sure many have said this, but I think that the main character of Don Giovanni is not Don Giovanni, it's Donna Anna.
Yeah.
So I think that it is about grief and trauma and living in the world and pursuing a life after something really unthinkable has happened to you. But it's also about aristocratic male bad behavior, a classic topic. I think what's so amazing about Don Giovanni is that I've seen productions of it where I would swear that it was about like the potential for a sort of utopian overcoming of sociopathic male privilege. And I've seen productions where I would swear that it was about the eventual triumphing of sociopathic male privilege. And I find almost every reading I've ever encountered of it persuasive. So there's kind of a quality to it where it's like you can turn it to the light and have completely different things bounce off its different facets. What do you think it's about?
I do think it's about grief. I think it's about death. I think it's about class. I think it's about sex and gender and where those two things get muddied, especially when we're thinking about the context of the Enlightenment era. Let's see, class, death. Oh, and it's about revenge. It's about vengeance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There are times where Donna Anna just becomes this pure column of rage. I think that's one of the most interesting things to me is always the question of what exactly happens to Donna Anna in the moments before the opera begins.
Yes.
Because that that affects the rest of the staging. And I don't know that there is one concrete answer for it.
Yes.
Because I have also been persuaded by a lot of different versions of this. It's funny because I wrote down in my notes first experience and then first good experience, because it feels like this is an opera where there are a lot of different avenues and so many directors just choose bad.
So I'm so glad you brought this up, because I am on like a Donna Elvira style personal vendetta, traveling the globe with like a knife in my hand, avenging the common staging practice of staging the assault of Donna Anna as like a kind of zany, consensual sexual encounter that she just changes her mind about after. It's really common, and I really hate it, both because I think it's sort of like a heinous trope more broadly, and also because I think it is a real misreading of what the music of the opera tells us, which is that something has happened to Donna Anna that has like changed the way that she exists. Like her music is so disjointed and bizarre, and like I really love all the scenes where Donna Anna and Don Ottavio are like trying to communicate and they just can't get their like musical lines to sync up anymore. And like I don't understand why that would be the case if something terrible didn't happen to her. This really common practice of staging it like it was consensual sex that she then changed her mind about. To me, that reveals a kind of like an attitude towards women that I associate strongly with Alfred Hitchcock, where it's like, well, women are so crazy and unknowable. Like, who could say why they do the stuff they do? Like, they're just crashing out all the time for no reason. And like, I find that often when that is the thesis of a work, it is eliding some like obvious and real explanation for the behavior and sort of collapsing that into like, man, women are so nuts.
Look, we're all trying to find the guy that did this.
Right. Right. Which and that Don Giovanni literally does that. It's terrible, but it's also really funny. He's literally like, we're all swearing revenge on the guy who did this.
You know, he may as well be wearing the hot dog costume, because then you get that extra bit of phallic imagery.
Yeah.
I feel like every conversation I've had so far for this podcast has just been free ideas for small regional theaters in Germany.
I would love to see the like internet meme staging of Don Giovanni.
With the cars on stage in opera trope, you could have the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Literally crashing on the stage.
Someone must have done this.
Don Giovanni and Leporello, they escape from the scene of the crime in the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, which they then crash. God, that's so funny.
What was your first experience with Don Giovanni?
What was my first experience with Don Giovanni? When I was first getting into opera, I had this real sort of like desire to catch up to like all the sort of most canonical works. So I was like, okay, so I have to watch Don Giovanni. And I watched the filmed, I think it was at the Met, the filmed one with Carrie Takanawa and like Bryn Terfel.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and it's like very classic. And then I just watched as many videos of it as I could get my hands on. Didn't see it live until they did it at Juilliard, and I reviewed it for Parterre, and I really enjoyed that production. Although weirdly, and I've never found an explanation for this, the Commendatore was costumed exactly like Karl Lagerfeld. Like white low pony and shades. It was so random. Like everything else about the production made a kind of logical sense. And then I was like, why is that Karl Lagerfeld? And then I reviewed it also at the Met, the Eva Van Hove production. So I've only seen it live twice, but I've seen many, many filmed versions, like so many filmed versions that I feel like, because I think sort of like, as you were saying before, Don Giovanni is like, yeah, like what was your first good experience with this opera? It's a really good question, because it's one of those works where I'm like, well, this is like a really amazing piece of art. It's a shame about how everybody gets at least one thing terribly wrong. Like I feel like there's so few productions of it where I feel like I sign off on all of this. I like everything that happened here.
For me, honestly, my first experience with Giovanni was Amadeus.
Oh, yeah.
What I loved about how Giovanni is contextualized within that film is that Peter Shaffer links it to the death of Mozart's father, because 1787 is the year that Giovanni premieres, the year that he gets commissioned to and writes it. which is bonkers when you think how long it takes an opera to get written now. And it's also the year that his father dies. He had a strained relationship with his father in like the last 5 years of his father's life. His father never forgave him for marrying Constanze Weber. He probably still blamed him for the death of his mother, which happened when Mozart and his mother were traveling in Paris. And he thinks that, he threw away his life. Salieri says it's his blackest opera, and he's like pouring all of that death into it. I was kind of surprised after when I saw it for the first time, and it's like, oh, this is really funny and happy.
Yeah.
But that is kind of what has stuck with me, is that he calls it a drama giocoso, so a tragicomedy, basically. And I think that's one of the things for me that makes it so compelling, is just that balance.
Yeah, it is. It's like all of the different characters or sets of characters seem to be like they're coming from different operas at times, where like there's like a tragedy that Donna Anna and Don Ottavio are in. There's like a comedy that Zerlina and Mazzetto are in. There's like a sort of revenge thriller that Elvira is in. And the collision of all of these modes is like really incredible as they mingle. And I don't want to do like too much of a sort of biographical reading, although I think that Amadeus's biographical reading of it is really, really persuasive. Like I also that changed how I read the opera, because I think that the linking of the events of Donna Anna's father being killed and her being sexually assaulted means that the opera is able to extend a kind of understanding of like grief and trauma, and a sort of, I think genuinely, especially for the time, but even like now today, like genuinely extraordinarily radical like understanding of how destabilizing that is towards her, because often we don't necessarily see sexual assault treated with that kind of nuance in opera. You sort of usually it's a kind of overblown melodrama, or like a sort of like really irresponsible like use of sexual assault for a sort of like texture rather than like a real like reckoning with it. And Elvira as well, although she's like a bit more of a comic figure, like there's I think much more interest in sexual assault as something that has secondary effects and has like lasting effects, and the fact that at the end of the opera Donna Anna's still not ready to get married, that I think is kind of incredible, and I think it's really only possible because the opera is able to say, well, it's the grief of losing her father. So the language isn't quite there yet to talk about that as an effect of being sexually assaulted. So there's this like blurred shared trauma between the death of the father and the sexual assault that allows the latter to be taken more seriously than it often is, and works from this time and works in opera in general.
This is why the line that Ottavio gives her, I sposo e padre in me.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be both husband and father to you. Always, always, always. I am like, my dude.
Ew.
Never the time or the place, and it's so funny. I just saw the production here in Berlin at the Komische Oper, where they added on the 20 minutes that Mozart wrote of the Requiem to the end.
Oh.
And also Donna Elvira is played by a male soprano.
Oh.
But this was the first time also that when the Don Ottavio sings that line to Donna Anna, she turns and looks at him with just the purest look of disgust.
Yeah.
I have been seeing this opera since 2000, so 25 years. And that was the first time I have ever seen someone recoil at that line. And it is like, oh my God, it took us 25 years to get here.
Yeah, I mean, Don Ottavio, an interesting character, I think.
He's trying.
I think a character who gets kind of understaged often because of the reputation of his material for being quite boring, which, it is often quite boring. And I often am thinking, like, does this guy really need two arias? But I think that means that stagings don't put the effort into, nuancing the relationship between Donna Anna and Don Ottavio. The Met production from a couple years ago, Ben Bliss was amazing Ottavio, where it was like hearing the music for the first time ever. I was like, wait, are these arias really fucking good? I had no idea. I thought they kind of sucked, but they're like actually awesome. he played it in this very sort of like, yeah, like well-meaning, he's trying. He just can't access what's happening to her. He has no language for it. He has no framework for it. The best he can come up with is like, don't be sad about your father, I'll be your father. Ew. But it's because they just can't communicate anymore. And something that I think is kind of under talked about, sort of line that I think should be picked up on more, is when she's recounting the story of what happened to her. She says, I heard someone, at first I thought it was you. And then it was actually Don Giovanni there to assault her. No wonder she can't be around him. She like the sort of Donna Anna push-pull thing where she's like, no, I need you to comfort me. I need you to support me. I need you to swear revenge with me. But I also like don't really want you to touch me or look at me or communicate with me or like sing a duet with me. Of course she's feeling that way. She thought that it was him and it was actually her rapist. That's like a crazy line. That's a crazy line to be in the libretto, and I think often overlooked.
There's a great book by Christy Brown Montesano who goes through all the women in Mozart's operas, and she has an entire chapter just dedicated to Donna Anna. She writes that Donna Anna has a self-possession and conviction that, in the end, resists everyone who tries to control her, even Don Giovanni. And I think that reading that line for the first time just kind of cracked her open for me. I think the most boring way of telling this story is that she has a consensual sexual encounter and then changes her mind about it.
Right.
But I really enjoy the ones where it's not consensual, but she doesn't know how to feel about it. Because we're also talking about something that, like, this all takes place within a day.
Right. Which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I could imagine that in the first even year of something like that, she would be having conflicting emotions. Have you seen the Klaus Guth production that was done in Salzburg where it's all in the woods and
Burger King crown?
Yes, the Burger King crown.
I like that production a lot.
It's one of my favorites because I think he treats Donna Anna so complexly, and I'm not saying this is how I want to see every staging of Don Giovanni, but because they use the prog ending and cut that final ensemble at the end, the last time you see her is when she sings Non mi dire.
Right.
And the implication in that staging is that she kills herself afterwards. I think it is also a complicated way of looking at it, but I was so persuaded by how he set it up, especially when earlier in the opera you have Don Ottavio sing his first aria, and Donna Anna is still sitting in the car in the woods where they've driven out to, and you see Don Giovanni come out. And the concept of this for everyone playing the home game is that Giovanni is shot by the commendatore in the opening duel, and he kills the commendatore, but the next 24 hours play out like a dying fever dream. And he comes out and he draws like a little heart in his blood from his gunshot wound on the car, and Donna Anna is just sitting there like, God help me, I am really drawn to this, and I don't know why, and I'm really fucking scared about what this says about me, that I'm not completely opposed to this.
Yeah. Yeah, she's sort of like in a crazy fever dream of her own, I think, in that staging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really compelling. Something that frustrates me and how I often see this opera talked about is I think there's one overly simplistic reading that where like Don Giovanni is this incredible seducer who like may be kind of amoral but is like kind of admirable, and like everybody wants him, and like every sexual encounter he has in the play is consensual because he's just so sexy. And then I think there's a kind of overcorrective simplistic reading that's like actually he is this monster and none of the sexual encounters he has are consensual, and he's just sort of like violently cutting a swath through the world around him. And I think that the far more compelling thing is what I believe the opera is telling us, which is that this is someone who is often successfully and non-coercively seducing women, and also when he is not successful in non-coercively seducing them, does not balk at coercing or even violently forcing them. Like, on the one hand, it's like you can't say that like everything with Donna Anna was good and gravy. But on the other hand, like if you try to say that like Deviene alla finestra isn't working, you're insane or you're not listening. He obviously does have the juice. He just also does not have like the moral code. And I think that like striking this sort of balance where it's like, no, he is actually really sexually compelling. that's just not an excuse for the way he behaves is like harder than you'd think for directors to land on.
Zerlina says it in their duet, vorrei e non vorrei, I want to and I don't.
Yeah. And that duet is so sexy.
So sexy.
And we can admit it.
I think it's really, I did a program note on Don Giovanni a few years ago where they asked me to contextualize him in the Me Too era. And I remember thinking about, it can be so easy again to just cheapen it and say, oh, this is the Me Too opera. But if you actually think about it, it's a really good Rosetta Stone for understanding why Don Giovanni is able to have so many sexual encounters under his belt, which is that there's power, there is obviously some sex appeal, and there is, on the other end of it, women are not in power in these situations. And that is kind of what we are brought up, even for me, like I remember all the stuff from like college orientation about here's how you have a date, boys and girls, and like girls, this is what you have to do. And it's like, well, wait, why is this about what I have to do, not about like him just keeping his dick in his pants if I say no, thank you, and I don't even have to say thank you.
Right.
But, this is, I think, what we then see. And the Me Too I connected it to the most was Aziz Ansari, because I thought that was such we are never going to know the truth of that. That truth is between the two people who are in the room. Even then, their truths may not align. But that's how a lot of sexual interaction goes.
I think Noce is the Me Too opera.
Yeah.
That's my take. I think Don Giovanni is something like way weirder. It's like too weird to be the Me Too opera. Wayne Kostenbaum, in his amazing book, The Queen's Throat, he has this great reading of Elvira where he's talking about how like she's like accessing the power in the kind of total abject status of being a wronged woman, but also like a woman who has been sort of like dealt with unfairly sexually, which a huge component of the power that Don Giovanni has over these women is that they won't speak out because it'll harm them more than him. And so Donna Elvira, in going like sort of like full mutually assured destruction, she's damaging herself significantly more than she could ever damage him by saying that she's had sex with him. And that to wear a wronged woman so openly has this kind of like blitzkrieg power in it where it's like, yeah, totally, I'm cooked, but I'm going to take you down with me. You are going to be cooked also. And I think that's like that's a sort of diva affect that I think a lot of opera characters access. But Elvira is this like amazing iteration of it. Also because of how the music sounds. The music that's written for her is like, she's like wielding these crazy like interval jumps and like crazy coloratura. Like that's like part of her "you can't fire me, I quit" power, is that like she sounds nuts and she's acting nuts and she's going like full self-immolation with it in a way that I think is really freaking awesome, like really compelling.
I think this is something that we lose a lot in hearing the opera today, is understanding how many different musical genres that Mozart was working with at the time, because you have Donna Anna is like a very opera seria type of figure, like these early Mozart operas. She can't get messy the way Donna Elvira does.
Mm-hmm. She's poised.
I also love that this opera, what I love is how the arias are paired, because in each act, the characters in Giovanni's orbit each get one, and the way that they pair with each other. So Anna's first aria is, "You know now who killed my father, swear that you are going to avenge him for me." And the second one is, "Don't say that I'm cruel to you just because I can't marry you like 12 hours after my father was killed."
Non mi dir might be my favorite aria in this opera.
Oh, I'm a Mitra D girl.
I just love it. I don't know why.
It's beautiful, but Donna Elvira then comes in and she, like you said, you know, you have these tragic characters, these comic characters. Donna Elvira is somewhere in between. And it almost reminds me of something like Elettra in Idomeneo. We're watching her have a mad scene, but we're like, oh, this is all very sensible. This is all very... You seem pretty calm and collected given everything that's going on.
Yeah.
First aria is, you know, tell me where this asshole is because I'm going to pull out his heart with my fist. And the second one is this guy seduced and abandoned me, and yet I still want him, and I still want him to repent. It's not I can fix him, but it's I want him to be fixed.
Yeah, or like I need redress in some way. I mean, everyone, like you said, it's an opera about revenge. Everyone needs redress in some way, and that means something different to everyone. Like Donna Anna, it's like we have to kill this guy. But Elvira wants redress in a different way. She wants a make good, not just a revenge, which I think is really interesting. Sort of going off of this question of favorite arias in the opera, my friend Margot says that there are like no really catchy melodies in this opera. I don't completely agree with this, but I kind of agree with it a little bit in so much as like, I don't know that there's anything in Don Giovanni that could be like excerpted the way that like Nozze is excerpted in Don Giovanni. Like that almost mimetically catchy quality that some of these Nozze arias have. Like there's amazing music in Don Giovanni, and there's music that gets stuck in my head, and there's music that I could like sit here and hum from memory. Probably most of the opera I could sit here and hum from memory because it is so like catchy in that way. But it kind of doesn't have any like massive tunes in the way that like, yeah, like Nozze has that one aria that is like so excerptable that it even shows up in this opera. It's like a joke how excerptable it is. And I wanted to like bring that to you as a question, like whether you feel like what you feel like are the kind of like iconic and almost like modular moments in this opera. Because the only thing I can think of is just the like Don Giovanni. Like that is like, okay, that's like almost mimetic, but like a lot of the arias are like they're like it's like a little more embedded in the fabric of the thing.
Yeah. I think you're right that those opening chords of the prelude, and I mean really it's the commendatory scene because Mozart wrote the prelude last and he just kind of pulled the most dramatic flourish.
Right.
And he was right. This is the other thing, because Don Giovanni, as you said, it's not really about him. He doesn't change throughout the opera. He is the most static character. Everyone else changes in his orbit and based on his actions.
Oh, yeah.
And his arias are the least revealing. He has the Champagne aria, which is just about getting a bunch of wine and having a big party. De Vieni alla finestra, which is the little serenade he sings outside of the room of Donna Elvira's maid.
Which is crucially not interior. It's a song even within the sort of diegetic context.
Exactly. And then the aria that he sings with Mazzetto, which is really just traffic direction. Like, you go here, you go there. And he's also pretending to be Leporello in that moment. So it's not really...
Yes.
We never get much of him. And yet... those first two arias, the Champagne aria and the Serenade, and especially the Serenade, I think that's one of the things I hear the most because they're short, they're catchy, and, you know, when you think of Don Giovanni, you think of this guy who's standing outside a lady's window, playing a mandolin and singing about how beautiful she is.
Vieni alla finestra, o mio tesoro, e vieni a consolare il pianto mio.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of where else I have heard this in the wild, and a lot of it, I guess the catalog aria, that's the other one, but it's not even the catalog aria so much as it's... no, it's just kind of the punchline of it.
Yeah, it's like the words of the catalog aria are catchier than the music.
In Italia 640, in Almania 231, 100 in Francia, in Turchia 91, ma in Spagna son già 1.300.
I think that this is not the most tune-driven opera, especially for its period.
I don't think there are any female duets in this either, are there?
Gosh, no, I don't think so. No.
You're right, though. It's not... The most you get is the first few notes. It's like Beethoven's Fifth.
Yeah, it's like the chord. It's like... Maybe this is like a framework. Like there are chord operas and there are tune operas. Where like everyone's talking about like...
Yeah, like you're not whistling Tristan and Isolde.
Right, there's the Tristan chord, but then it's like, yeah, some of these operas are tune operas. Speaking of Don Giovanni not really having real arias, this is something that I have been thinking of that has been like weighing heavily on me for years, and I don't have like a reading of it. It's just an observation. What is the deal with Don Giovanni being this character who has no real arias, who has these little arias where he's either doing stage business, like you're saying, like doing stage directions, or singing a song, like diegetically a song within the opera, but he's in like every ensemble thing, and he's in every scene, and he's obviously the sort of central actor and mover of the opera. Why is that also a description of Susanna in The Marriage of Figaro?
Oh, wow.
She has one piece of music where she's doing a bit of stage direction. She's dressing Cherubino up. And then she has one diegetic song where she's doing like a little seductive serenade. But she's in everything. It's a longer sing than Brunhilde. But she almost never sings alone on stage. And I think it's so odd to me that these two operas that in their casts resemble each other a lot. Like you can kind of take all the people who are in one and slot them into the other.
Yeah.
That the two figures that are structurally linked are Susanna, who is this amazing woman who is like fighting off sexual advances, and Don Giovanni, who is the perpetrator. Like, I don't know that it says much about Don Giovanni, but I think it says something really interesting about The Marriage of Figaro, that these are kind of structurally linked figures.
Well, Don Giovanni remains consistently himself through the opera.
Yeah.
I think in The Marriage of Figaro, you have the same, where everybody else changes, but Susanna is...
Yeah.
She knows who she is.
She's already herself.
She is just herself, and so she doesn't really need these arias to talk through her feelings because she is always saying them.
Yeah.
Like, she has no problem.
Yeah, well, like minute one, she's like, I'm awesome and I love to do pranks. And then in the finale, she's like, I'm awesome and I love to do pranks. Like, she's just...
I love that for her.
She knows what she's about. But these like, I think there's something sort of characteristically Mozart and Da Ponte to me about these characters who are acting but not really self-reflecting, and whose interior worlds are withheld from the audience. Like, there's something very compelling about structuring an opera around someone who you either like tremendously or hate or feel sort of mingled feelings for, but like don't really know at the end of the day. You never really like... It's hard to understand what's going on in there because we're just never really given access.
I mean, I have always seen Don Giovanni in that case as being partly born from the fact that Lorenzo da Ponte himself screwed his way basically from Italy into Austria and was also friends with Casanova.
Right.
It is kind of the inverse, but Casanova has like these volumes upon volumes of memoir to the point where they are boring to read.
Right.
And it's not that he's censoring himself, but it's just like, okay, Giacomo, I get it. You had sex a lot.
Right.
Also, if you've read da Ponte's memoirs, you're like, this is the definition of an unreliable narrator. But sure, you know, a friend of mine wrote a play about da Ponte's life, and one of the punchlines to a lot of the stories that came up was da Ponte would say, and I flipped him the bird as I walked away.
And everybody clapped.
Yeah, and I think if da Ponte had said we need to give more introspection to Don Giovanni, that may have broken his brain a little bit.
Totally.
I don't think that he was necessarily a person given to self-reflection of his own person.
Yeah.
He was an intelligent person and he was a good writer, and I think he would be a much different person if he had actually thought to do that.
What really frightens me about da Ponte is that he ended up teaching at Columbia University.
I know.
Just like teaching Italian lit. Not even teaching how to write the best operas ever written. Just teaching Dante.
Shows you how much respect opera librettists get.
Yeah. And also, there was a time when anyone could just be given a job at a university. And
I know.
you could just be like, I'm Lorenzo da Ponte. And they'd be like, you have tenure.
R.I.P. Lorenzo da Ponte, you would have hated the tenure process.
Oh boy, would he have hated adjuncting. Yeah, but I think that lack of introspection is ultimately what has drawn people to the opera. Like, I feel like Don Giovanni has this sort of odd reputation as being like every philosopher's favorite opera. Like, Kierkegaard's obsessed with Don Giovanni, and like Zizek writes about Don Giovanni. And like, I think I understand why, but it is, I think, in the way that I often find philosophers kind of alien to me and their thought processes. Like, I'm always kind of like, yeah, I think this is an amazing opera. It's one of my favorites. But the undisputed consensus around it being the like most inherently structurally perfect opera ever written, I don't know that I agree with that.
I think of the Mozart operas and even the Mozart da Ponte operas, it is the most structurally perfect. And here's my thinking on it.
Speak on that, yeah.
It's 2 acts. Each of the main characters, Donna Anna, Donna Elvira, Zerlina, and to an extent, Leporello. And like Mazzetto, I kind of feel like he's there. I don't really feel like Mazzetto is a super. He's just not. I mean, he plays an important role. He is a vital, like if we're looking at this as a chess game, he is a vital piece on the board. But again, he's not one where we really need to go into what he's thinking. I think it's an opera about the women.
Absolutely.
They each have arias that bookend their arcs. There's, as we said, Donna Anna's first aria and second aria. There's Donna Elvira's first aria and second aria. And then Zerlina, both of her arias follow a very similar arc, even to a degree more perfect, because the first aria is Batti Batti. I will stand here, Mazzetto, like a little lamb, and you can just beat me all you want, and I will not yield because I am true to you.
She's so awesome.
Oh, God, I love Zerlina. I love her so much.
Hi, femme camp antics.
The second aria is Vedrai Carino, so she's saying, after he's been beaten up by Don Giovanni, I have the cure for all of your ills. It's a natural cure. I keep it with me right here. All you have to do is touch it to feel better.
Yeah, the heart is one place where we could locate it. There are others.
Well, you know, it's a traveling cure. It's like kind of how ibuprofen knows exactly where to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is so perfectly who these characters are. Zerlina, especially in that in both of the arias, is subverting what her expected role as a woman is, because she does say, like, beat me and beat me and beat me, but then she says, oh, but I see you don't have the balls to beat me. So let's just forget this argument because this is stupid and this isn't worth any more of our time.
Right.
And in the second one, it is, you know, I mean, it's not even a double entendre. The double is just there. There's no subtext. It's all just text.
Right. It's a single entendre.
We learn about these characters throughout the opera, and the ensembles are important. The interactions are important. But I think the way that Mozart and Da Ponte move each of those characters from the first aria to the second and into whatever conclusions they need to get them to, I think it's so economical. I think it's so precise. Così has one too many numbers for me. Nozze has 4 too many numbers for me. You know,
yeah, exactly 4.
Like, I don't need Oprah giving out arias to every single person. And all of the numbers in between it is this really perfect kind of Tetris game where each piece fits into the other, it leads into the other. And even Leporello's 2 arias, Jonathan Miller talks about playing that first aria, the catalog aria, not just as a joke, but as something kind of sad, because if we're taking into account the fact that, you know, we're talking about almost 2,100 women.
Right.
And the morality issues of the time, you're looking at a lot of women who are dying afterwards, who might get pregnant out of wedlock, who might die in childbirth, who might be killed as an honor killing by their fathers or husbands, who might kill themselves, as Klaus Goethe suggests Donna Anna does. Leporello is not a bad person. He just has a bad boss.
I feel like I have I think that some Leporellos are like that, but I have a slightly different reading of Leporello where I think that he's actually really compelling because I find him like one of the most pathetic and loathsome people in the entire opera, because he is someone who will take unending abuse from Don Giovanni, and just in order to feel closer to than far from patriarchal power. Like the trickle down benefits of Don Giovanni's absurd privilege are enough to keep Leporello coming back. Like, Leporello needs to understand what Figaro understands, which is that class interests and gender interests are linked. And in fact, the correct thing to do is have solidarity with the women who are treated badly by your bad boss. But Leporello can't understand that because he feels like if he just sort of stays in this like male solidarity instead of solidarity against his oppressor and his employer, if he stays in solidarity with male interests, then maybe he can catch a crumb of like privilege or pussy or whatever it is he's trying to like sort of get at. Like,
privilege or pussy. I love that.
It's my memoir.
That's a tagline for an opera company to use. I'm tired of these really cute, coy, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. Don Giovanni, privilege or pussy. I think Leporello can be played with a lot of pathos, but I also think that I'm always very interested in him when he's played as what I see to be a very commonly occupied position, which is a guy who is like, has so deluded himself into thinking that what's good for all men in general will be good for him, that he like has no ability to see what would actually get him out of the bad situation that he's in, which would be like class consciousness or like solidarity with women or like whatever.
But at the same time, Leporello also changes, and his second aria is this moment of him untangling everything. And yeah, a lot of it is him just wishing that people aren't going to kill him in that moment, you know, mistaking him for Don Giovanni. But
yeah,
I think that could lead to some really very real reconciliation or reassessment on his part in a way that Don Giovanni can't and won't.
Yeah, I think he gets there. I mean, I think Leporello has to realize that no amount of him sticking his neck out for Don Giovanni will result in the equivalent happening ever. But I think at the beginning, how he starts to me is kind of like these guys who like listen to like Manosphere podcasts, and they're
yes.
well, maybe I don't feel like I'm getting anything I want, but like if I can just believe that like Andrew Tate is getting it, then that makes me feel better, instead of realizing that like, yeah, that sort of toxic, misogynistic worldview is only making their lives worse, because it's like making the world a worse place. I think Leporello needs to realize that like Joe Rogan will never do anything for you.
Elon Musk doesn't know you exist.
Elon Musk doesn't know you exist. You can reply to his tweets and you can send death threats to people who oppose him, and he would not piss on you if you were on fire. So like that's how I see Leporello. But I think you're right that he does come to realize that over the course of the opera, that like, and the thing where they switch clothes, I think, is this real wake up call for him, because like in a kind of twisted monkey's paw way, he's getting what he wanted. Like,
yeah,
he gets to have this crazy encounter with Elvira where it's like he's Don Giovanni and he can do whatever he wants and he can have sex with whoever. And then it's like immediately everyone tries to kill him. And she's like, wait, first of all, I've been set up. Second of all, maybe this isn't actually the path. Maybe the way to be happy is not actually to become this horrible person, but rather to sort of join forces with the people who oppose him.
And he says, again, in the Vienna ending, when you have this ensemble, he says, I'm going to find a better master, better boss for my next employment. And,
yeah.
Does he not? I don't know. You kind of have to take everybody at their word in this opera. And I think this goes back to the Donna Anna question is, if she's saying to Don Ottavio, this guy came into my room, I thought it was you, I realized it wasn't, I resisted. What else is there to do in this opera? Because we are given very little else to go on. And
right.
I think you kind of have to either surrender to that and accept it, or if you're staging it, you have to really, really think about what it would mean to subvert that, and what sense does that make for the character and their motivations. And to me, Donna Anna does seem like someone who, she is very self-aware, she is very self-possessed, she doesn't want to be owned. And I think that's kind of why she likes Don Ottavio and still is happy to marry him, because he is kind of a golden retriever of a person.
Yeah.
When she says, when she tells him what happens, he isn't like, oh, you're damaged goods, I want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
He really is like, oh my God, I am so, so sorry.
Don Ottavio to me, like in the same way that Leporello feels very familiar to me as like a kind of guy that I encounter, like Don Ottavio to me feels like such an incredible kind of prescient taxonomy of like the well-intentioned male ally, where there's this incredible moment where like after she's recounted her whole story, he's basically like, yes, absolutely. We need to get to the bottom of this and find out what happened and then get revenge. And it's like, dude, she just told you what happened. But he like has this weird moment where he's like, and once there's proof, we're really going to act on this. And it just feels so like, oh yeah, like these guys are, there's a way in which this opera is this, I think, really contemporary feeling taxonomy of like male positionality, like male relationships to power.
Yeah, he's not very bright.
No, but he is trying. Like you get the sense that he really cares and he's really trying, but he just doesn't have what it takes to really stick up for her in the way that he needs to.
He reminds me a lot of Carabino in that way, where I think he has very romantic ideas of what a man should be and what a husband should be. Mm-hmm. When he says, I'll be father and husband to you, I think that's like something he read in a book. And it's just like, oh, this is the thing you say.
Well, yeah, and he's like, well, she lost her father. Look, I have to give her what she's missing.
There is a whole line of commentary, and I don't want to beat Donna Anna into the ground, but this has led to a lot of yikes takes. One of them is by William Mann, where he says that she is an upper-class Spanish lady who has etiquette where her feelings and brains should reside. Duty and honor are her watchword. Towards all her fellow creatures, she presents a coldly correct personality. If she loves her father, it is because the Bible told her so. Her censorious anger against others is a juvenile trait. All men to her are beasts, and it would be beneficial to her personal growing up if she had been pleasantly raped by Don Juan.
Wow.
Her upbringing has made her afraid of other people, and she has given most of her sincere, outgoing emotion to lapdogs or possibly horses.
Whoa, diagnosed horse girl. That's something about that is like kind of even crazier than saying she should get raped.
That's the thing.
Wow.
That's the thing, right? That was the thing that got me even more. I was like, oh my God, she's a horse girl.
Horse girl. Okay, how do you listen to this opera and feel that way? Like, how do you hear Non mi dire and be like, God, what a frigid bitch? What's amazing about Donna Anna is that she is a frigid bitch. And many people are.
And that's okay.
That's like an amazing thing to be. That's like one of the most interesting character types on the planet. Nothing is more awesome than a frigid bitch going crazy. Hello?
I mean,
have you ever heard of literature? and yeah, that's so nuts. Wow, men really hate women.
They do.
What's the deal?
I don't know. You think about Catherine of Aragon going to marry Henry VIII's older brother and then marrying Henry VIII, and just how much of a downer she was in English court because of how Catholic she was. And so you have to think that there is that level of repression as well.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you are going to be a frigid bitch, and that's your survival.
That's the culture. That's the survival. Also, like, someone experiencing a violent, cruel, and senseless act of rupture and violence that is so outrageous and traumatizing that it cannot be reckoned with within the sort of philosophical, spiritual, and religious discourses that you've been raised in, thus sort of triggering a kind of expansive self-loathing, a kind of like hatred of one's own embodiment, and like a real dysfunction in how you're interacting socially with others because you feel that the whole tissue of your social context has been ruptured irreparably. So how could you possibly act? That's the plot of Hamlet. No one calls him a frigid bitch.
He is a frigid bitch.
And he's sexually weirder. So like, lay off Donna Anna and start calling Hamlet a horse girl. Because I think there's grounds for that.
1,000% Hamlet is a horse girl, even more so than Donna Anna. Because I also don't think that she is someone who, she clearly has tenderness.
Yeah.
Towards her father, towards Don Ottavio.
Yes.
She says even of Donna Elvira in the quartet, what a noble bearing. She's not saying, oh, this bitch stole my man, or like, this bitch got what she deserved.
Yeah, she sees a crazy lady and she's like, let's hear her out. That's amazing.
I feel sympathy for her. Charles Ford, I think maybe this was even in a defense of William Mann.
Oh, jeez.
Blames it on the Enlightenment. Within the Enlightenment's conception of femininity, the complicity of every rape victim must always be in doubt, for no woman can naturally resist the sexual intentions of a man, for she is nothing more than an object of his desire.
See, this is what I mean when I say the first and I think foremost misreading of Don Giovanni is that like no woman can resist him. And then I think that there's this very validly in response to this, like centuries of people saying this stuff, I see sometimes like stagings or readings that like kind of want to make him too much of a flop. Like that Bryn Terfel production, he like does not have a successful sexual encounter at any point. And it is true that he like actually kind of in what we see in the opera never manages to have a successful sexual encounter. Like Elvira's always coming in and like throwing cold water on it. It's more interesting if the truth is that this is a man who sometimes has consensual sexual encounters and sometimes does not, and doesn't really personally differentiate between the two, and then falls to the women to have to make sense of what's happened to them. Like, I think that is what is so good about the opera, is that he doesn't differentiate between the two. And the fact that we're given all of these women who've had different kinds of encounters with him, we watch them have to make sense of what's happened to them while he just like literally doesn't see a difference between them. That I think speaks to what I find to be remarkable about the empathy this opera has for women.
And again, I think this is why this is the most structurally perfect of the Mozart operas, because you see this transition from this thing that happened to making sense of it. And that is super, super clear for all three women, even though I think Zerlina gets kind of short shrift. But even then, if we're looking at the Vienna ending, she's the only one that gets a solo in that final sextet. Some of them at the beginning say, this is how it goes for people who are assholes. And then she gets to sing that all by herself just once. And I think that Mozart did have a lot of I think Mozart and Da Ponte both had a lot of class sympathy because neither of them they were both servants.
Right.
I don't think they ever necessarily saw Zerlina as less than, but I think it's just the way that naturally the nobility feel they can treat someone like that. Don Giovanni's just like, of course they're not going to be mad that I'm crashing their wedding. I'm Don Giovanni. I'm rich. I'm going to take this pizza and a couple 2-liter bottles of Coke and turn it into... I'm just picturing Donald Trump standing in front of the table of like Burger King now.
Right, the table of Burger Kings, yeah. Come to my castle. I'll get Burger King. And he said, you can leave her with me. I mean, I'm a gentleman.
Yeah, like...
Right? That's not what he says. She's in the hands of a gentleman.
And it's really... It is also kind of a callback to Count Almaviva because it's like the droit du seigneur.
Mm-hmm.
I get to have this. Not only can you leave her with me, but you have to.
You must, yeah. Well, and Zerlina also has a kind of like vocally as a kind of ascended Barbarina is an interesting... I'm very compelled by as you can tell, the relationship between those two operas. You're selling me on the perfection of the structure of Don Giovanni, which I've been skeptical on because I find that parallelism to be kind of conceptually awesome. But like sometimes when I'm watching Don Giovanni, I'm like 2 Don Ottavio arias and they kind of sound the same.
Oh.
2 Zerlina arias and they kind of sound. And I love all of these arias. I love them so much. But sometimes I wouldn't cut one. It would break my heart to cut any one of these. But like, something about the parallelism I sometimes experience as a kind of redundancy, but you're selling me on it. So that's productive.
I do also like the version though, where they cut Don Ottavio's second aria and replace it with the Zerlina Leporello duet. This is a structurally perfect opera, but it can be modified and the structure doesn't fall. We don't lose much by not getting the second Don Ottavio aria. I do like it very much. I do think the Vienna ending can also be a little redundant, but then you get these really incredible bits of information about how Mozart feels towards Zerlina, what happens to Leporello, not just like but like the way that he fits in with these ensembles.
So I wanted to ask you about that ending because I know people who really feel like it kind of ruins the whole thing. Like I know people who are like, oh, like it puts this like tidy little bow on it. The way I feel about it is like really varies production to production. Like I think I've seen productions that don't use it and I'm like, that was the right choice. And I've seen productions that use it and I'm like, that was the right choice. Because I think it's very possible to have a really cynical reading of the ending of the opera. And I think it's also really possible to have a really redemptive reading of the end of the opera. I mean, I think of the most recent Met production as example of like a really well-staged, like actually kind of redemptive and optimistic staging of Don Giovanni, kind of against all odds. But then I've also seen so many that are really cynical. I've seen ones where he like ascends back up from hell and it's like, haha, I can't be killed because I'm the patriarchy. Like, the Juilliard one, like it sort of did that. Like he like kind of popped back up from hell and like while they were taking their victory lap of doing the Vienna ending, he was just kind of like rising back up behind them. And it was like, oh shit. Is there going to be a sequel?
It's like when you think you've gotten Bowser finally down and he bounces right back up. It's like, oh, goddamn.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like a post-credit scene where it's like, oh, his finger twitch. It's like Don Giovanni will return in Don Giovanni 2. The sense that he's unkillable, I don't want it to be like every time I watch this opera, I feel like he's unkillable, but I sometimes it's like, yeah, that's an awesome reading.
I think the idea of him is unkillable. I think that the Don Juan figure,
yes.
Jonathan Miller compares him to Faust, and I think that's such...
So does Kierkegaard.
Kierkegaard.
It all comes back to Soren.
He says if Don Giovanni can be said to be about anything, it is, among other things, about the dangers of overreaching. Faust loses his soul by impudently using it to purchase omniscience. Don Giovanni spends his soul trying to assert sexual omnipotence.
I buy Don Giovanni as a striver. I mean, this is what I keep saying. I'm like, there's so many completely contradictory readings of this opera that I'm by all of them. But that recent Met production, which I keep bringing up because I really, really loved it, their take on Don Giovanni I thought was really interesting because it was like almost like Don Giovanni as Fisher King, where like they're in this sort of like brutalist, blasted landscape of like barren concrete. And it's because he has this kind of like enervating effect on the whole landscape where he's like sort of holding it in this stasis. And he and that Don Giovanni, there's like at the dinner scene, he's like brought this like big plate of pasta and he does this and it's Peter Mattei. So it's like everything he does on stage, you're like, wow, that's the most amazing walking I've ever seen. Cause he's just like so sexy and 6'4" and like I'm obsessed with him. But so they bring him this big plate of pasta and like he just sticks his hands in it and starts like squishing and like playing with the pasta with his hands. And then he's like juggling bread rolls. It's this like really uncomfortable, weird moment. But it like opened this like window into this character for me where I'm like, I think one way to read Don Giovanni is actually not as like a striver and an overreacher, but as somebody who is not actually seeking pleasure, but is doing something far worse, which is consuming endlessly and taking no pleasure in it. He's slept with 2,000 women. It doesn't seem like he likes sex that much. He's just doing it. He's brought a dinner and instead of eating it, he just squishes it with his hands. Like he is compulsively, destructively consuming, but it's not because he's a connoisseur. It's not because he's a true hedonist. He's like this much sadder, sicker thing, which is like, yeah, like someone who is consumption for consumption's sake rather than consumption for pleasure. And I think that's like a really specific reading. I wouldn't say it is like the definitive reading, but I really enjoyed it as a reading.
I think that also carries. I was thinking of the Gordon Gekko line in Wall Street when he says greed is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm thinking about these guys, especially in the 80s when you had like this era of excess and consuming for consumption's sake. And it still looks good. It can still be very lavish, but I don't think there is any pleasure. It's like, what can I throw at this void in order to make it feel better?
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm sure there are stagings that look at this as kind of like a Citizen Kane thing of, Don Giovanni's trying to get back to like one perfect moment he had with one person, like maybe the first sexual encounter he had or something like that.
It's his mother's fault.
It's always the mother's fault. To go back to the question about the victory lap and what that all means, I think part of it is, though, figuring out who Giovanni is, at least what he stands for. Is it empty consumption? Is it striving for something? And I don't think those are necessarily exclusive.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think he's a villain.
No.
I think he does very villainous things, but I don't think he is manifestly, like, he is not the personification of evil, because that is just a boring read of it.
Yeah, that's a waste of structural perfection. I mean, I think he's an avatar of real world evil more than he is an avatar of like cartoonish Satanism or whatever.
One of the staging tropes I like is that everybody is relieved when he's gone. That is still very real, but there is also this sense that their lives are going to be a little less interesting without him.
Oh, yeah. There's this sort of shell shock. I mean, like when everyone's like, Elvira's like, I guess I'll join a nunnery. It's like, what do we do now? This is why I kind of like the like Fisher King reading. It's like for mostly for worse, not really for better. He is the like governing logic of the opera. Like he is the glue. And when he's gone, it's like the wheels come off a little. It's like, where are we actually? What have we been doing for the past 3 hours? There's a kind of nightmarish quality of waking up from a nightmare and it's still there.
And that's why I also like these stagings that use the Vienna ending. It does kind of add that little bit of existential, okay, what do we do now? I guess we go home and have dinner. I called super titles for a production of Don Giovanni at City Opera, which was a great production that Christopher Alden did. But I remember every time that super title would come up where Zerlina and Mazzetto say, we'll just go home and have dinner, everyone's laughing. And it's like, well,
right. That's not really the note.
You guys are all leaving the opera to have dinner and your lives are going to be a little less interesting. You are also going to be taken out of this world. And what do you do after it? And, some couples are going to go home and screw. Some couples are going to go have dinner. Some couples are going to break up on the way home.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I was dumped after a performance of Dialogues of the Carmelites, but I'm also not saying that happened.
Oh, no. That's a terrible opera to be broken
I
up.
know. I know.
Oh, wow. I think I would rather get dumped after Don Giovanni.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That's fun. That's a good story. Again, if you're going to take this aspect of, I want to end it with the characters who are left in his wake, you have to have a really good reason for doing it. And it can't just be like, oh, well, this is how this is done, or this is how the orchestra knows this, or this is how the singers know it.
Right.
If you want it to be funny, if you want people to laugh at that line, then that's great. That is a valid way of doing it. But I don't think that was Alden's intention. And it always felt really weird to have this, because it's,
right.
You know, in Italian, it's like, okay, we'll just go home and be in each other's company, basically. And they do say to eat, but it's like, you know, you figure they're starting their life together. I don't know. I get very picky about super titles for this reason.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, me too. My pet peeve with a super title is when there's a joke in the original libretto and they just don't translate it. I'm like, I want the joke. I want to laugh. The Met super titles for Figaro are so bad. There's like multiple full on setup punchline jokes that they just fully leave out. And then I seem like a crazy person because I'm laughing at the Italian.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you guys don't get it. He's talking about his horse. It's hilarious.
I think one of the most compelling endings I've seen of it recently was the Komische Oper's production, where it takes the Prague ending. So Don Giovanni gets dragged to hell. And throughout the production, you have this body double for Don Giovanni, who's a dancer. And the singer who is playing Don Giovanni he's on wires. He gets lifted out like he's descending into hell. The body double dancer is on stage. And literally that D chord, is it a D? Of course it's the D.
It's D for Don Giovanni.
I might be wrong and I might need to re-record this, but that ending chord is also the opening chord for Requiem. So
wow.
They move so fluidly into that. And then you see this body double for Giovanni. And the whole concept, this is Kirill Serebrennikov, and I love him. He has one too many ideas, but I loved it.
Better than one too few.
Yeah. And throughout the Don Giovanni production, he had an actor who was a body double for the Commendatore reciting passages from the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Okay, that's too many ideas.
It is. But again, I am a person who has one too many ideas all the time, forever and always. So I loved it because the idea being then, how does Giovanni move through death?
Right.
And these bardos of death being kind of points and this exception. And I think part of it may have even come from the fact that Mozart was, in that year writing to his father saying, I've been seeing a lot of this lately. I've accepted it. And apparently, friend of the pod, Ben Miller, talks about this in an article he did on the Don Giovanni for the New York Times, that there have been other performances of Don Giovanni that have ended with the 20 minutes of the Requiem that Mozart finished before he died.
Damn. Wow. Cool.
I don't think Don Giovanni ends. I think that's the thing. Whatever happens, we are, even if we see it end on stage with the Prague ending where he's dragged down to hell, he screams, Leporello screams, that's it. We know that he is the least interesting character on the stage in terms of what we have been given information-wise for the evening. We are much more interested in the lives of the other characters and what happens to them.
Right.
Because obviously they're going to find out about this, even if we don't see them find out about it. If we get the Vienna ending, everything is future-oriented. Donna Anna says, give me a year to marry you, Don Ottavio, because I need a second to figure this all out. Donna Elvira says, I'm going to go to a nunnery, which also makes sense because, if she's self-immolated, basically.
Right. What else is there for her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mazzetto and Zerlina go to start their lives, and Leporello says, I need to find a new boss. I mean, he needs to work. So nothing really happens except that they're saying what is going to happen.
Right.
And if you get the Requiem, again, this is just, death is like a thing that Dorothy Parker said, death and taxes are the two constants in our lives. And maybe that's the other thing I really love about this opera. And one of the reasons that it's structurally perfect, even in terms of the ending, because it is just kind of a continuum. Like,
right. It's this endless deferral.
I could sit through a Don Giovanni. I could see a Don Giovanni where it goes through to the end and then starts over again, and Leporello has become Don Giovanni,
Right. It all just starts right back up again.
Yeah. And I think that's really wonderful. I also love I don't know how often they're doing this now, but I remember one of the first taped performances I saw from like one of the PBS broadcasts. I think it was a Salzburg performance, and I think it was Sam Raimi and someone else, but the Don Giovanni and Leporello switched off for every performance.
Oh, that's fun.
Because the voice types are so similar that you often have that anyway. And this interchangeability.
It could go on forever.
Yeah.
I love that it ends, regardless of which ending it ends in, this sort of state of forever deferral. And there's no real resolution, because it's like anything that ends with like a crazy deus ex machina like that is going to feel like it never really got resolved.
It's funny, you said deus ex machina, but it also feels like a deus sex machina.
Yeah. That's the other tagline for the episode. What was it? Privilege of pussy, deus ex machina.
Sex machina.
Yeah.
Just the most impossible things to say on a podcast.
Yeah. Deus.
Or out loud.
Deus sex. Yeah. It looks better in print, I'm sure.
It's a poster. Yeah, it's a good poster tagline. Yeah. So I feel like this is probably one of the easier questions to answer, but does this opera deserve to be among the 100 greatest operas?
I don't know. There's no tunes. Yeah, obviously, yes.
Do you think it's the best of Mozart's operas?
I like Figaro more. I can't help it. I like Figaro more. I love shenanigans. I love screwball comedy. I think that probably it is more sublime. Like objectively, it is more like sort of ascendant and sublime. But the heart wants what it wants, and my heart wants shenanigans. So I've always just liked Figaro more. But I think definitely the case can be made that it's the best of Mozart's operas. I think I remain skeptical on the case that it's the best opera ever, which I see a lot. But I think it's the sort of thing where like you have to say something's the best. It's like saying Citizen Kane's the best movie. It's like you have to pick something. I mean, I think Don Giovanni, like Citizen Kane, like Casablanca, is the sort of thing where it's like everyone has agreed that this is the best thing in its art form, and actually it's kind of underrated.
Yeah.
Like actually we don't talk enough about how good Don Giovanni is. Like we kind of don't talk enough about how good Casablanca is. Like they're so rated that they kind of swing back around to underrated.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's one of the reasons, when you have people planning an opera season, it's like, oh, and we'll just throw Don Giovanni in there. And it's okay if it's a super old production or...
Right.
The production that preceded this one, the Uwe van Hove one at the Met, was also one that came in under the Peter Gelb era. I think it was 2011 that it premiered, and it was so dull.
The Hollywood Squares one?
Yeah, the Hollywood Squares one.
Yeah, with like all the door. Yeah, no, it's like, the most dramatically inert piece of theater ever staged.
And it's like, as long as like people are wearing tri-cornered hats and the women have bustles and everything, we're good. And it's like, no, guys, no, that's not what the people want. But it's so easy to just kind of undersell it. It's such a disservice because when you see a really good production, after a good production of Don Giovanni, I feel really sad. It's not that I feel sad about anything that happens in the opera. It's that I've just been like cut off from this life source, and I'm never ready for it to be over in a good production.
Which is, I think, a mark in favor of the Prague ending is that like to end it so abruptly, it really drives home that feeling of like, wait, I wanted to live in that forever. I'm not ready to be done with that, actually.
Yeah, no, sorry, bye.
Yeah. It is the most like, okay, bye, opera epic of all time. Except maybe Salome is also like that. It's like, okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Although Salome, you at least get like a head a decapitated head and a really nice kiss, and it feels like
Oh well, and you achieve like the fullest height of like musical apotheosis, and then it's like bye.
Sylvia, where can people find you online?
Great question. People can find me on Twitter at Cowboy Verismo, very normal at. They can also find me at Opera Comments, which is my amazing gimmick opera Twitter. And they can also, by Googling my full name, Sylvia Korman, find my reviews on Parterre Box. And I think that's everywhere. You can also find me reviewing the occasional Shakespeare production in the journal that is just titled Shakespeare, but you need to have a subscription to the Taylor and Francis publishing house, which CUNY doesn't give me.
Or if you have the DOI, you can put it into Sci-Hub.
I'm just going to plug my Sci-Hub real quick. Yeah, that's where you can find me. And you can find me at the Met, and many have. People come up to me. I'm always happy when that happens. Yeah, this was so fun. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.